Okay, I call this Board of Education, Teaching and Learning, which is Tuesday, December 12th, 6:30 p.m. President's myself, Dr. Williams, Evelyn Gleason, and guest is Mr. Larry Cannon.
No, I'm not a
He's
guest.
a committee member.
Amen.
Okay, first item on the agenda is next year's school calendar. We'll be starting the 16th of August, about the same time, usually the third Thursday of August. Barring any snow days, we'd actually finish May 30th. No real new curveballs. The only thing that we don't have on here right now is the 2019 state testing dates, because they still are not released at this point. So we will amend this calendar at some point in the future. But I'd like to bring this to the board next week because our feeder schools rely on our calendar in order to set theirs.
Are their testing dates the same as ours, or?
No, because they do park, so
Right.
it's actually a whole month. It's a big window, whereas ours is only one day.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So theirs is usually they start end of March through April. You know, kind of varies a week here or there. Spring break still the last week of March. This year with Easter falling back towards the end of April, we'll actually have Good Friday and the Monday after Easter off. Other than that, yeah. Mm-hmm. Other than that, still wrapping up first semester before winter break.
That's a good move.
Yeah. It's amazing that there's still a lot of districts out there that still don't finish first semester before winter break. They still come back and do 2 to 3 weeks of classes. We used to when I first was starting here, yeah. For about...
And then they forget
I went to
everything.
school here.
Yeah, over break,
Yeah.
you forget everything, come back and have to take your finals.
Yeah.
I remember that.
And everybody needs a good timeout.
Yeah.
You know, just come back refreshed.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Any questions or concerns about the calendar?
Not for me.
Pretty straightforward. Okay, I'll bring that next week.
And they were all good with it, the teachers?
Yes, actually I sent it to the JFA, the executive board. They found one. I was actually off by a day, so actually had one extra day. So we put in Monday after Veterans Day. We'll take that in observance. Other than that, they were good.
Good.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, the next item, I didn't print off copies, so I'm hoping that you had a chance to look through the intergovernmental agreement with Central Middle School, School District 146. So they actually approached us wanting to partner and share data. Right now, the only thing that they share up is their map data, which we use for placement testing of our incoming 9th graders. But they actually entered into agreement with District 230, I believe it was a year ago, where they share even more than that. So it's PSAT data or Explore data. They really want to know how their kids are doing once they go all the way through high school to better plan their curriculum. So they are requesting us to also partner with them. And then we would be able to get more data from them in terms of their other testing to see, again, building that cohesion, looking at better ways of adapting our curriculum, etc. What are your thoughts about that?
I think it's a good move forward. If we find that this works, might we approach some of our other districts to do the same kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting because Central Middle School partners with ECRA, and I'm going to forget what their acronym stands for. They've been all over the III conference for a long time. It's an organization that does nothing but data analysis.
Oh.
So many school districts partnered with ECRA to do their teacher evaluation growth data. And Central Middle School does a lot more. They actually give them all their assessment data so that they can do predictions about student performance in the future. So unless other school districts had some tool for data analysis, it might be a little overwhelming for them.
Gotcha.
But absolutely, if this is a success, I would definitely offer it to the other school districts and that wanted to partner.
Because if their curriculum is teaching things that doesn't line up with ours, it's big.
Yes. Yep.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
The
didn't
more
see-
we work with our feeder schools, the
Right.
better we can
You're
expect
right.
them to. meet our standards so they're not so far behind. And
Yes.
Get them so they can
Yep.
put them in there.
Larry, good?
Yep.
All right, I will bring that to the board for approval as well. Okay, the last thing on the agenda, Bill had a conversation with me after his evaluation meeting with the board last month, and shared some of the comments or concerns that board members had specifically with respect to Decision Ed. So I want to take this opportunity to show you the warehouse and talk to you about some of the things that we're doing, answer any questions that you have. Keep in mind, though, I'm limited to what I can show you because of HIPAA and FERPA, so I won't be able to show you specific individual students. But I'm going to kind of speak to it on a global scale. And I do have some sample reports where I've taken names out, so at least you can see what the report would look like. Okay? And I'm going to show you our preliminary teacher workspace as well.
Before we get started,
Yeah.
are you happy with the way it's moving along?
You know what, I am. And I know one of the concerns is, that was said on multiple levels, that the board feels that this has been a slow rollout. And I can understand that.
I think you told us that, though. I do remember that you said that there was going to be some hiccups along the way. And
Yes.
It wasn't,
Yes, I think, and again, I'm not criticizing Decision Ed in any way, shape, or form. Our preliminary understanding 2 years ago when we looked at the tool,
Right.
it seemed like it was a very simple process to get us going. Like anything,
right?
once you dive into it, you realize it's not so simple. So it took almost a year just to validate the data. And what I mean by that is, we didn't want to just show everybody, hey, here's this new tool, go play with it, only to find some of the data wasn't coming out correctly.
Okay.
Nothing frustrates a user more than if what they're looking at isn't accurate.
Right.
So we wanted to make sure that the data is as clean as possible. Are we still finding mistakes? Absolutely. Especially if you haven't run a particular report, you're going to look at it and be like, well, that doesn't look right.
Right.
And we have to figure out where the issue is. So we were very methodical in terms of how we did roll that piece out. And we purposely started with the administrators because they're the ones that we expect to use data on a daily basis. I don't expect teachers to necessarily look at this on a daily basis. That's not necessarily what it was intended for. The other thing, by starting with administrators and getting them comfortable with it, they can help find mistakes. But they can also start creating the buzz in terms of, hey, did you hear we have this tool called Decision Ed, and here's what it can do. Oh, that's really great. And start getting the excitement built so that when we do launch it to the rest of the staff, they've heard it, but now they get to see it. And we also know that the data that's coming out is more clean, if that makes sense. Okay, so this is our opening dashboard. This is, so I have access as a district user, so I can see all 4 schools. And again, just like PowerSchool, an individual can only see what their security level allows. So for example, a building principal can only see kids in their school. A teacher, once we launch it, can only see the students in their class. Okay?
That's good.
But what we wanted building level users to also be aware of is they should know where they stand across the entire district. Okay? So these key indicators that I'm going to point out to you are those key indicators of success that we look at on a yearly basis. So when I put together that multiple measures report that Bill goes over with you every summer, those are the key indicators that we want everybody to stay focused on, and then I'll show you how we can digress from there. So the first thing, when a user logs in, we see our current enrollment. Okay, again, this is district-wide data, but it is broken down by school. Now, if you're familiar with any type of a website, what do you know about something that's blue and underlined?
You can click on
You
it.
click on
You
it. Yeah.
absolutely can click on it. So if I were to click on this 338, it would give me all 338 student names, along with all their demographic information. Okay? So keep that in mind as we're going through, and whenever you see that underlined blue, it means I can drill down a little bit further. So we have our current enrollment. This one is year-to-date absence category. I switched out, these are called widgets, by the way. I switched out this widget because it just showed us our year-to-date attendance, and it was always right around 95%. Well, that's great, but what about the 5% that aren't in school? So I changed it to this widget, and this widget is giving us the number of students absent, either 0 half a day to 5 days, 5.5 days to 10 days, 10.5 days to 15 days, or more than 15 days of absence. So if I'm a building leader, I can just hover over this gauge, and it's telling me right now as a district, we have 223 students with more than 15 days of absence.
Wow.
That's not good.
That's not good. I might want to drill down into that a little bit further. Okay. Here I have attendance by month. Right now in December, we're at a 93.8% attendance rate. Not bad. State standard, though, is 95%. So we want to make sure we kind of take a look at that. Okay. Over here, let me just bring that down for 1 second. I can't see the type. I apologize. Evelyn, if I put this up, is this glare too much for you?
No, it's fine.
Okay. Sometimes it's glare, but this is better. We can see everything.
Yeah.
Over here, we have our top 5 infractions to date. Right now, unexcused tardies, we have 1,607. Keep in mind this is district-wide, but that's our highest infraction, followed by class cuts at 1,530. And then these are our top 5 responses, not necessarily to the same infractions, but what type of response are we using in general? Silent lunch was used over 1,300 times, daily detentions over 1,300 times, and a warning reprimand over 1,300 times. Okay, so again, this is just giving us a quick snapshot of current enrollment. Do I have some attendance issues? Where are my discipline issues, again, as a district? What's really great now is I can start manipulating this data. So I have these things called selectors. I'm going to filter for a building. I could filter for a demographic. So if we wanted to look at a specific grade level, we want to look at a gender, we want to look at low income. Now keep in mind, if we were doing this old school through Power School, I'd have to go in, run a secret code, and have it spit out the data. All I have to do now is pick a school. I'm just going to pick Bremen. Notice, watch the widgets. Just see them flash. They automatically change. This data now only represents Bremen High School.
Okay.
So those 233 with 15 or more absence? At Bremen, that accounts for 48.
Okay.
Wow. That's good.
Attendance rate, they're at 94.4%. If they were at 95, that bar would be green. Okay. At Bremen, their top infraction is a class cut, and the disciplines use warning or reprimands as the most frequent response for whatever the discipline issue is. Okay. Let's pick a demographic out there. What do you want to look at? At Bremen.
Hispanic.
Okay, let's look at our Hispanics. So I'm going to go under ethnicities. Again, widgets are going to automatically change. It was a quick flash. Now this data represents Bremen High School and our Hispanic students.
Okay.
So again, of those 48 students that had 15 or more absences, 25 of them are Hispanic.
Over half. Wow.
But now we can start drilling down even further. There's other ways now I can look at, all right, I need to know who those kids are. And let's kind of see what's going on. But again, this is just giving me a quick snapshot of what's going on with certain populations.
That's nice.
Okay?
That decision was a great decision.
Yes.
Let's do gender just since we're there.
Sure. Of Hispanics or just overall?
Oh, there you go. Of Hispanics.
Okay, so where am I? So let's see. Of the 25, 11
Wow.
are girls. So almost
That's
split.
interesting.
Almost half.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The attendance doesn't change much. It's pretty.
Nope. Probably in the 94.4 again.
Yeah.
94.2,
Yeah.
slightly less attendance. Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
So again, as a building user, it's always good to compare myself to where the rest of the school is at.
Now, Corey, we can also do our staff, right? As far as attendance.
Well, that's the next wave. So
Okay.
one of the things that came up again is this iVisions piece. So
Okay.
this was one of the things that we weren't necessarily completely aware of is iVisions does not talk directly to Decision Ed. So iVisions is its own company. They will not allow us to go on the back end and go into their system. It's like basically if I were to go into your home computer, you probably wouldn't like that. Same thing. They do not like outside vendors coming into their software. So that's where it's been a little bit slower of a process,
Okay.
where we have to figure out how do we download the data and get it up into the warehouse in a seamless fashion if they're not going to let us talk to them directly. But yes, to answer your question, and along the way, we will be able to bring teacher attendance into this piece.
When did we know that they wouldn't allow us to do that, go in the back door and get that information?
Basically at the start of this school year, so over the summer I was working
'Cause I
on...
remember that was a big feature.
Yes.
I mean, we could see what teacher is calling off on certain days and,
Yes, and we will be able to do that. Now,
it's just gonna be a little bit longer.
it will. My goal was to try to get it up and running this semester, but with all other things kind of going on, it's kind of taken a little bit of a backseat. But I found out this summer when we finished getting this part launched, when we finished getting Mastery Manager together, then the next step was to get iVisions on board, and that's when we found out that we weren't allowed to do a back end.
Because iVisions also keeps track of the
Finances.
days off, how many vacation.
Everything. And then the whole financial piece too.
Okay.
Now, before this school year, we tracked all of that by hand.
Okay.
So this is really the first year that we're using iVisions for attendance. So it's going to be our baseline data to
Do
start.
they allow you to pay a premium to access that information? No?
No, they said absolutely not. They do not allow outside companies to come into their servers.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a matter of basically writing a program that dumps the data at midnight,
Okay.
sends it to our server, and then uploads it. So it's just an extra step.
Okay.
Whereas this automatically talks to PowerSchool. They allow us to go in there, and at midnight it updates.
Okay.
Yeah, but good question. But that is going to be coming on board. Okay, the next tab that we set up is, again, kind of similar to the first one. It's the overall enrollment, but it breaks it down into a bar graph and a chart. This is basically all of our demographics in one spot. So we can look at gender enrollment, all of our ethnicities, low income, limited English proficient, and special ed. Again, I can choose any type of indicator. I can select by a building, and then all that data would change. But if I wanted to, quickly identify all of my low-income students, we have 1,843 students out of the entire district that's low income. I could just click on this and get all 1,843 students right there. Again, with all the other demographic
What's the
information.
student number, the total numbers of, 5,500?
52, I want to say, 5,130.
And 1,800 are low income.
Mhm.
Oh, that's 50%.
Yeah, almost 40%. Next tab. Now we're kind of drilling down into the attendance a little bit. So this was the bar graph that we used to have on the front page. That really doesn't, again, tell us a whole heck of a lot. It just keeps us on par with that 95%. Again, if we were 95%, that would be green. That's kind of our target. We're certainly not in the red, which is a warning, but we are approaching that 95%. This is an interesting one. This is attendance by day of the week by grade level. So we can...
Seniors. I can't see those
Mondays and
numbers.
Fridays.
Right?
Yeah.
We'll just see the yellow and the green.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
And again, just for kicks, let's look at the girls in the district. Oh, girls don't necessarily have good attendance compared to the boys.
Wow.
Boys have better attendance, which is interesting.
Wow, yeah. I would have thought the opposite. It is interesting.
Yep.
Well, there's
Girls are-
sports that they gotta be
Well,
there
that's
for.
true. They gotta be
and-
there for
Yeah.
that. You're right, yeah.
Girls play sports too.
I
Yeah.
know.
Okay, so
Also stay on
I don't know if
the
you
list.
noticed, but the selectors only work with these two widgets. These are actually kind of static reports. Again, the data will upload at midnight, but there's no way I can hyperlink or click on these to get the students. But again, it's giving me a quick snapshot. Right now we have 245 students that are falling in this warning attendance. They're in 0 to 80% attendance rate. And then we've got, again, our attendance category counts by grade level. Those that are falling in excellent, the 95 to 100%, all the way down to 0 to 80%.
Oh, and the number on the side is the grade level, okay.
Yep, grade level. Yep, down here. First one is building, second one's grade level. This next tab we built specifically for the deans. This is our behavior tab. So this is giving us some trend data. So now we have 3 years of trend data. These are the total number of infractions by month. So we can kind of see Are we on par to surpass the last couple of years? Are we doing better than the last couple of years? This one is great because it also gives me a quick snapshot of a data entry error. How do we have an infraction already in May? This school year, that just means somebody puts a date in wrong so that we can go and quickly correct that. Total suspensions by month. Again, we can see if we're kind of on par. We've been slightly up. Again, this is district-wide data over the last couple of months. The number of students suspended per month, our total infractions per school year. This one is by building. This one is really interesting for the deans to kind of look at, again, to make sure that we're not disproportionately responding to infractions in a way that sets one minority different from another. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually pull an infraction here in a second, but these are all the different responses that the deans give.
Can you read some of those? They're very hard.
Yep,
They're too
actually,
small. I can't read them.
Let me blow it up just a little bit.
No, thank you.
You're very welcome. Yeah, I know it's tough. So we've got academic intervention, community service, daily detention, dean's detention, loss of privilege, out of school suspension, parent conference, silent lunch, UPC. And these are the percentages. So that's how often the deans are using that by ethnic group. Okay. So let's take our class cut, since that seems to be. So these are all of our different infractions that we can look at. So if I choose class cut, as a district, I can just do a quick scan. Asians, keep in mind that's a very small population. So 66% of our Asians were reprimanded, a warning. It looks like daily detention across the board is the most common response. About a third, a third, and a third for all our demographics, with the next one being silent lunch. So this is a quick way that a dean can see, okay, is our response to the infraction helping, not helping? Especially if we're giving it to one ethnic group and we're not seeing any change, maybe we need to try a different response.
Corey, is that the same language in each school?
Yes. I can change that to, let's do tardy. So for unexcused tardy, looks like daily detention again is the most used response, followed by our warning and reprimand. Now I can go back through and I can change a building. So let's just take a look at Tinley Park. And now the data is filtered specifically for Tinley Park. So I can look at, again, are we using one response to the infraction differently based upon the groups of students that we serve? So again, it looks like warning, reprimand, daily detention are the most used. But this is, again, is a quick way. So that, remember, this is filtered by Tinley. I can quickly see, you know, do I have a little uptick in behavior compared to the prior year? It's a great way to say, hey, you know what, we're coming up on a month where last year we had a lot of suspensions. Let's figure out and let's try to get ahead of any issues that are coming up. Questions about this one side? Okay. Our next tab that we have built now, preliminary because we only have 1 year of data, but this is our SAT data as of April 5th of this year. We have set it to the ISB benchmarks of 540, not the College Board benchmarks, just since that's how we're going to be held accountable. So this is reflecting the percentage of students that are proficient overall. Again, I can use these selectors and change if I want to look at Oak Forest, it'll automatically just kind of recalculate. If I wanted to look at the males at Oak Forest, you're not going to see a whole heck of a lot of movement on the screen, but again, I can do some preliminary dive into the data. This next tab is we created as our AP data. so that we can track, okay, over the last 3 years, how many students have participated in each of our AP courses. This widget will also work with our selectors. So right now, the assistant principals are taking a look at, if I pull, let's pull Hillcrest. I'm getting ready for course selection. If I see, let's see, where's AP Geography? We've got 43 students enrolled in AP Geography. I'm going to take a look at how those students are doing and have a conversation, one, with them. Are you taking the test this year? Number two, have you thought about AP World History or AP Euro History? Start getting them thinking about their new classes. Then I can click on those and I can get a list of students that are in that class. You quickly see. Down at the bottom, we're starting to keep track, not that we haven't before, but we have now in the warehouse the last 3 years of data. How many scored a 1 to 5 and how many scored above 3 and below 3 in terms of our pass rate. And again, I can quickly click on that and get all the students' scores. Okay. Now the last tab, this is where kind of the magic happens. Remember, those first sets of tabs are just preliminary overviews of certain pieces of data. They're just giving me quick snapshots, but now I want to dive a little bit deeper. Within this warehouse, there are over 1,000 reports that are already pre-made that I can pull and look at anything. Now, you can get completely lost with this process. So one of the things that we did last spring when we started to roll this out to administrators is I took a look at how they pulled data before for their data retreats and found comparable reports in Decision Ed they could just click instead of running the data through PowerSchool. So I set them as priority flags. So now I can just go and search my priority reports, and these are the ones that we use consistently when we do our data retreats. So I don't have, me as an individual, I don't have to sift through 1,000. We've done all the work ahead of time. Okay, so that's one way that I can look at some reports. Let me put that back. So as a user, if I'm at the building, I can only see school reports. So I'm going to filter right now for school reports. And I'm just going to show you, blow that up a little bit. These are all the different things eventually that I can search for. So right now, highly qualified teacher is not in there. So what that means is all the teacher endorsements I would be able to pull, but until we get that into iVisions, that was not available. I can look at student assessment, attendance, behavior infractions, response and suspensions. Each one's a different set of reports. Student enrollment. This is one where I can pull how many kids have transferred in since October 1st.
That's good.
I can say how many kids transferred in today, basically yesterday at midnight. So that's a really key one when we're starting to drill down into how are our transfer kids doing over time. GPA, mark our grades. I can look at a specific program. This one we don't do standards-based grades yet. We have student transcripts, and then these are all the ones that will start coming into play when we get iVisions on board. Teacher attendance, professional development, their course schedules, things of that nature. Okay, so I can, if I want to look at student marks, so again, these are grades. I can look at grades by course for a specific teacher. Teachers by course, it's kind of just a different way of looking at it. Specific periods, populations. So if I wanted to look at how my Hispanic students are doing in a particular course, I would search there. Just a list of student grades. This one we use a lot, prompted failing student list, and I'm going to show you what that one looks like right now. So basically what I've done is I've gone through the report and, like I said, just captured a screenshot. Okay, so. That's not what I wanted. Okay. So I showed this to the counselors last week and showed them how they could run just for the kids on their caseload. And we just talked about freshmen, because freshmen on track is a big thing right now that we're working on to try to make sure that kids are passing 5 and not failing more than a semester in class. So I can go in, it's asked me a series of questions, but I pulled this for a counselor. These are 9th graders. You can see the student IDs, so I can quickly get a snapshot of this student is only failing 1 class. This student, though, is failing 3 classes. This student is failing for 3 classes. So I can get a quick snapshot, again, of the kids on my caseload. Where do I have some problem spots, and do I need to have a conversation with a student? Supervisors also have access to this, so they can pull all the 9th graders for their specific course and see, do they have some conversations that they need to have with some teachers? How can I help? What's kind of going on? All of these reports actually can be downloaded into Excel so that the data can actually be manipulated and sorted however the person sees fit. So again, all this simple clicks, and they have that data. What's great here, you can't see it because it's black and white, but this is actually a hyperlink. So is the student's name as a hyperlink. So if I were to click on the student's name here, it would give me the grades of that student. But if I were to click on the student ID, it would give me every piece of information we have in PowerSchool about the student. So when I showed the psychologist this, if I'm sitting down for an IEP meeting, I don't have to go through and look at their behavior and then go to a different screen and look at the grades. It would give me all that data in one report.
Oh, that's great.
Attendance. Did they transfer in from another school? What school did they transfer in from? So I'd have all the enrollment history, any discipline issues or history would be in there as well. Okay. So any questions on, that's the administrative workspace. So all the building principals have access to this data. Counselors and psychologists have access because they have access to all student information. Social workers will also get exposed to this workspace. This is a little bit different than the teacher workspace. Any questions there? Okay, let me show you the teacher. Teacher is still under development. And we have to kind of still jazz theirs up a little bit. But when the teacher logs in, remember they can only see the kids in their class. So right now, the only reason why you're seeing this particular student is because the amount of information it takes to build this workspace, if we were to load all the teachers, it would suck bandwidth. So to build this workspace, they go with the smallest class size. And right now it happens to be these 3 students that travel to Bremen to take TV production. So that's the only reason. This is not the final product. But on the teacher's homepage, what they will be able to see by section is a quick snapshot of, okay, tell me about the kids in my class. What ethnicity are they? What grade level? Gender? Low income, special ed, or LEP? It will give me all of that in one place. Keep in mind, if I was a teacher right now, I'd have to go into each individual student and pull up that information. Right now it's in one page. Year-to-date attendance. What's the attendance of my kids like in that class as of midnight last night? The grades of my students. GPA we're going to take out. And then eventually, I'm going to show you one of the reports. Eventually all of the SAT data and MAP data would be here, so I could see at the beginning of the school year, okay, tell me about the performance of the kids in my class. How do they do on the last test? How do they do on their MAP test? What's their Lexile score, etc. We're building a marks tab for them. So again, once it loads right now, this school year we actually turned on in progress grades. So last year when we used the warehouse, we could only look at grades when they were stored. Now grades are updated at midnight. So I have, here's my Q1 stored grades. Blue is an A, B, C, D, and E. And then this is my in progress Q2 grades. So I can kind of compare. Right now I've got more A's and B's than I do C's, D's, and E's. They're also going to have access to reports, but I'm going to scale this down to the specific things that they're going to need. And let me show you a couple that they will have access to. So as I mentioned, student attendance. I took out the students' names again. Remember, there's only 3 kids in this sample class. But right now, I can see they're all hovering above, well above 96% attendance. What you can see on this report is it's actually color-coded. These kids are actually showing up green. But if I have attendance issues, depending upon where they are, they'd be yellow. If they're so-so, red if they're way below in their attendance percentage. So that's something that they will see quickly. Here's an example. Whoops, let's turn that the right way. And build it up. So when I talked about being able to see SAT data, keep in mind right now we've only given one set of tests, and this is the fall test of last year. But I can quickly pull up the roster of the students in my class and see their scores as they go through time. What did they get as a freshman? What did they get as a sophomore? What did they get as a junior? So I can see their growth over time. Okay. Another report we're working on right now that the teachers will have access to is their data that they use for their evaluation. We're pulling the assessments out of Mastery Manager, and basically it's going to be the same thing for each student in the class. Here's their pre-test score, here's their post-test score, and it'll calculate the growth for them so that they can quickly get a snapshot and see where they're at. So those are some of the main reports and features that we are working on. And again, my goal is to have the teacher workspace, like I said, we're just working on a couple of tweaks here or there on the reports to roll out second semester to the staff.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's nice. At any one point, when you get further into this or whatever, is there going to be a page developed, a synopsis for maybe the board members that you would give quarterly, monthly, weekly, you know?
So one of the things I'm actually working on, so that 150 slide multiple measures report, I'm trying to build through Decision Ed.
Okay.
So that all I have to do is click the report and it would load all the data in that point in time. Then that's something I can just quickly send to you. Yeah.
The 150 what indicators or?
Well, no, it's 150 slides in the PowerPoint. I'm trying to remember how many indicators. Maybe it's 30 different indicators.
That we'd be able to get.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Some of them, so part of the issue, and not that it's that we can't do it, it's figuring out the workaround. So one of the things that we're trying to figure out, the college and career readiness indicator. So kids will be deemed college and career ready if they take a dual credit class and get a C or better. Now it's in English and math. They would get credit if they pass an AP English or math exam. If they have workplace experience. So there's all these different indicators that makes a student college and career ready. What we're trying to figure out is how do we code them in PowerSchool so that we could pull it into the warehouse so counselors can get a list of these are the kids that are college and career ready, these are the kids that are not. Right now we don't have a one-stop shop to pull that data. I'd have to pull how many kids got a 3 on AP English, AP Math, how many got dual credit, and then figure out how to put that together.
How
So
many places are we pulling data from?
right now, PowerSchool,
Right.
Mastery Manager are the two
Those
big
two.
ones. Hmm.
And that's what we went into this thinking, or did we go?
Well, we're going
into-
to add iVisions.
Right.
And I should also say we're pulling the map data, which comes from NWEA.
Okay.
So that's not a direct connection to them. We actually just download the data and upload it through an Excel spreadsheet. Where else are we pulling
MAP is
from?
the test at the elementary schools.
Yes.
Right.
And also all of our special ed students take MAP 3 times a year.
Oh.
College Board, so anything that comes out of the College Board, we download the data and upload it to Decision Ed.
Okay.
Um,
And obviously that's all compatible.
yeah, we can,
To-
as long as anything's an Excel file, they can upload it.
Okay.
So if it's not a direct connection, as long as it's an Excel, we can create a connection
Does
to it.
somebody have to sit around and say, oh, I need to go do that today, or does it just happen automatically?
Nah, it's me.
Okay.
It's me to start, but now once the connection is made, the next time I pull something out of Mastery Manager and I put it into the server folder, it automatically uploads. So it's the initial connection that takes time because you have to make sure it's in the right format. And then once it's in the right format, then it's automated. Yes. So that's also why it's taken a little
Well,
longer.
Yeah, but other things, like I said, we paid a guy who spent 2 years by the time you got the data assembled, it was old.
Yes.
It was useless.
Yes. So now what,
At least this is current.
yes, this is very current. Now what the administrators are working on is they all have specific goals that they're focusing on. And the goals are tied to data that they determined. And then they have to figure out, well, where am I pulling the data from? So in most cases, they're pulling them from the warehouse. So one thing, for example, is they've just pulled their junior fall test scores. They're going to map out which students are going through test prep programs, and they're going to compare those students to the students that didn't go through a test prep program and figure out their growth once the spring test comes around. But they're not stopping there. That's one level of data. The other thing that they're adding on is parental involvement. So those parents that come to evening events, whether it be learning about the SAT or FAFSA, they're keeping track of which students, parents are involved and correlating that to academic growth. They're looking at grades compared to academic growth. So they're starting, our data retreats in the past have only looked at one variable, discipline, attendance, grades. Now they're taking multiple data points and looking at achievement over time.
That's good.
Yes. So the next data retreat, they have to start reporting out on the data that they've started to collect and what's it saying.
And then try to figure out a way to change that data if
Yes.
it isn't going in the right direction.
Exactly. Whether it be we need to change a program, program is working, but we need to add some things. We need to get more students into test prep, whatever it happens to be. That's going to be their goal. Some other uses, Maureen went in and pulled all of our students that met the SAT benchmarks, and we identified 500 students that are eligible for the Bilingual Certification.
Wow.
So now
500? Wow. Wasn't it like 35 last year?
Well, it was 35 that earned, and I don't remember what the actual population that qualified. So this is the first
okay.
round that
You've qualified. and
you've
then-
qualified now to take the test. Now they have to take the test and pass it. Exactly. But all those students that earned a 3 or better on AP English or AP Spanish automatically get the seal of biliteracy. So she went in and pulled that right from the warehouse. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah.
It makes a difference to see it like this than to just read.
Yes.
Oh, it sure does. Yeah.
Yes.
Are you presenting this at the board meeting on Tuesday or?
Not on Tuesday.
Okay.
No, not this. I want to, again, kind of address some of the concerns first
Okay.
from last board meeting and kind of get a gauge of where we want to go. And again, I'd really like to kind of hone in on that college and career indicator first, because I think that's something that we...
Man, I'm impressed. I really am.
Thank you.
You know, from the start of inception, you know, and to this point, it's awesome.
It is.
And I remember you saying, you know, as far as your job is going to be, you know, a lot easier to sit down and take a look at this data and say, hey, we need to address this, that, or the other. You have it all in one spot.
Yes.
I remember that.
Yeah, and we're getting more and more. Again, are all administrators using it on a daily basis? No. And we're not going to get every teacher to use it on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
But are we better than where we were a year ago? Absolutely. You know, I hear a lot of administrators saying, oh, I went into the warehouse and I looked at this report. Or, hey, I'm trying to find this thing. Can you help me figure out where it is in the warehouse? Absolutely.
Well, we really need to get them to do as much as they can.
Yes.
You know?
Yep.
The more data we have, the more we can address issues.
Yes. Well, and again, and I also see it coming up in, you know, they're in team meetings and, you know, someone will spit out, you know, an emotion or a thought. Well, you know, attendance is the issue. Oh, really? Somebody goes on their laptop, opens up the warehouse. No, attendance is not an issue. You know, so we're really getting kind of better at getting the answer first before we make a blanket statement. Again, we're not perfect, but it's becoming more and more part of what we do. And it's great. It's many of them are becoming much more comfortable, not only looking at this, but getting more comfortable with Excel, collecting data, starting to analyze the data. They're getting better.
Well,
Yeah.
the more people you have doing that, the better.
Yes.
Instead of one guy sitting in a room, you
Right.
you know, multiple people in every building. That's
Yes.
going to make a difference.
Yep, and for every building, what data they look at is different. You know, it's what matters to them I could tell you, go look at this, but if it doesn't really matter to you in that moment, why would you look at it? You need to look at what's important to your kids, your building at that point in time.
Okay.
So we're trying to put the ownership on them, and that's why we've kind of shifted the data retreats. That multiple measures report, in the past, each position was responsible for pulling that data, and it would take them days to build that PowerPoint. Now, I can do that whole report. I can build myself in 3 hours, pulling the data. Now it'll take me a full day to put the PowerPoint together, but probably 3 to 5 hours tops. I'd have all that data.
So, Corey, will you know what school is inputting more than, say, the next school, or?
Well, they don't input anything.
Okay.
This only reads from PowerSchool.
Okay.
So there's nothing they can add to this.
Well,
it's what they're doing with the data.
Okay. Well, does one school use PowerSchool more than the other? You'll be able to see?
Yes.
Okay.
Not necessarily, again, I don't want people to go out there and think, oh, Big Brother's watching and how many times they're going to the warehouse.
I'm saying just the exact opposite. Maybe it could become a challenge. Hey, this school used it more or is sending us more data through PowerSchool versus this school, and maybe start a little competition challenge or something. Because the more we have, like we just said, the better off you're going to be able to address the issues.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and again, we're going to do that through the data retreats. Is okay, everybody's going to show, here's the data we're working on. Here's all the different variables we're measuring, and hopefully another school will say, well, we didn't think about that data piece. We need to add that, or why did you choose that? Explain that a little bit more. Is it really telling you anything, or maybe you don't want to spend your time pulling that data, and you could be doing something different. So, yeah. Any other questions, concerns? Please,
Really
now's the
good.
time to ask.
No, that's very much informative.
Yeah. And again, it's hard. I wish that I could dive into some more reports for you, but as soon as I click on some, student names pop up. But if there's something specific that you'd like to see, let me know, and I can, prepare a report and pull names out. So
When, off the top of your head, when did we approve this? How far back?
it's
a couple of years?
2 years. I want to say, yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I want to say it was spring semester 2 years ago, maybe.
But when we approved it, then we didn't have it. I think we started like in the fall.
Well, we
Right.
had it, but it was the back end of them talking to Jeff and Steve just to get the connection, the server set up, and the IP addresses to talk to each other. So that took the whole summer.
Okay.
And then once PowerSchool got in there, then so every basically assessment, attendance, any piece of data, we had to go and validate one at a time. So we randomly would pick a student and say, okay, DecisionNet is showing this many days absent. Go into PowerSchool and find that student. Are the number of days the same? And if not, we have to figure out where the connection is broken.
Wow.
We had to do that for grades. We had to do that for GPA. So every subject in the warehouse had to be validated.
Otherwise, though, you got garbage in, garbage out.
Correct. And like I said, we're still finding a few things here or there. Like my master manager report for the midpoint is not talking right now, so I have a webinar tomorrow to figure out why it's not loading correctly.
I remember they had a fee associated with it, $37,000.
It's probably a little more than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember.
What was over $100,000?
Well, for the initial
rollout?
setup, yes. And then, of
Yeah.
course, with everything, there's a maintenance fee, and I honestly don't remember
Yeah, yearly fee.
what that is,
Yeah.
but they're
well
really
worth
great
it,
to work with. Anytime I've had an issue, I pretty much have for the first 3 months of school, every Monday I had a standing call with them at 3 o'clock, and we would work through, hey, here's the issue of the day, let's solve it, or who do we need to kick it to, and they've been really great support. And actually this week, Thursday and Friday, is our Midwest Decision Ed user group meeting, so I'll be going to Rockford to learn from other districts about what they're doing. I'll be able to share out what we're working on. And
How many districts around us are using it?
I don't. I'll know more.
After you're...
They're, like any company, they're very quiet about advertising specifically who they have, but Indian Prairie, so
Yeah,
we went up there initially, and they've been really great. We actually used their mastery manager reports because they built them, and then we just customized them to fit our needs, so we didn't have to start from scratch. And that's going to be the really great part of the Midwest group. 14,
Oh.
Naperville.
Yeah, okay.
Mhm.
I knew the name, I couldn't put a town there.
They were
Yeah.
one of the first ones.
Yep.
right, Cora?
I know Oswego uses it. Warren Township.
Wasn't it Lamont or no?
Lamont does not.
No.
Oak Park River Forest. Yeah, so it's getting bigger.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you feel money well spent?
I
right?
do.
Good.
I do. Like I said, just the amount of time it's saving you. And again, for every administrator to be able to find something is great.
Well, more than that, I mean, it's a real time,
Yes.
you can identify the problem in real time. If that's something we look at, and by that time the kid's graduated and somebody else who may not fit that profile at all is here.
Yeah. I will tell you, I don't know if I mentioned this in the mid-month memo, but one of the things that we found because of Decision Ed, so the prompted student failing list, which spits out all the E's, when we pulled it by freshmen, we couldn't figure out why Hillcrest freshmen on track keeps going down. So the percentage of students on track to graduate, I think right now is 64%. So in order to be considered on track, you have to be passing 5 classes with no more than 1 semester of the failing grade in a core class. English, science, social studies, math. Well, any student that has extended English and extended math,
Yeah,
In our
we have
mind-
5 classes.
in our mind it's 6 because it's a period and a half, and a period and a half makes 3.
Yes.
But according to ISB, it's only 2 classes. So as soon as they failed a semester, They're out.
Wow.
and we didn't realize it until we pulled that report on Decision Ed. So now what we have to do is take those students that have both and give them a separate code, course code for that extended time, so that it would count as an extra class. And then we should see the freshmen on track go up.
Wow.
You probably would have never found that if you
No.
didn't.
Would have never done this because again, in our head,
And then
we
you run around going, why is that happening? What should we do?
yes,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Trying to fix a problem
That
that's
isn't there.
Yeah.
there,
That
right?
we created.
yes, yeah. So, anything else for the cause?
Not for me.
Meeting adjourned.
Me
What
and
time do you
Jack.
have?
How about
21?
7:21?
You got it.
Okay.